Millions of American seniors with diabetes are drinking the wrong milk every single day, and they have absolutely no idea because nobody ever explained to them that not all milk is created equal and that some types can spike your blood sugar just as badly as a candy bar, while others can actually help stabilize your glucose levels and protect your health in ways you never expected. And if you've been following your doctor's general advice to watch your diet, but you're still struggling to get your numbers under control, the milk in your refrigerator right now might be a big part of the reason why. I'm Dr. Sarah Brooks. I've been practicing medicine for over 20 years, and today I dedicate my work entirely to helping seniors live healthier, longer, more independent lives. And one of the questions I get asked more than almost any other from my diabetic patients is this: can I still drink milk, and which one should I choose? And my answer always surprises them because the truth is that the right milk choice can be one of the most powerful and simple adjustments you make in your entire diabetes management routine. And today I'm going to walk you through exactly which milks help your body and which ones are secretly working against you every single morning. You are absolutely not alone in this struggle. The CDC tells us that more than 37 million Americans are living with diabetes right now, and the vast majority of them are seniors over the age of 65. And every single day, these millions of people are making food choices that either support their health or undermine it without even realizing it. And milk is one of those choices that happens quietly in the background of daily life, showing up in your morning coffee and your oatmeal and your smoothies and your cooking. And when you multiply a bad choice by 3 or 4 times a day over months and years, the impact on your blood sugar and your overall health becomes enormous. So if this is something you've been struggling with, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up right now, because your support helps me reach more seniors across America who are searching for this exact information and who deserve to have it explained clearly and honestly without confusing medical jargon. Now, before I get into the specific milks, and I promise we're going to go deep on each one with real practical advice you can use immediately, I need to take just a few minutes to explain what's actually happening in your body when you drink milk as a diabetic, because once you understand the mechanism, everything else is going to make perfect sense, and you're going to wonder why nobody explained this to you years ago. When you have type 2 diabetes, your body has developed what we call insulin resistance, and that means your cells have essentially stopped responding efficiently to the insulin your pancreas produces, and insulin is the hormone responsible for escorting glucose from your bloodstream into your cells, where it gets used as fuel. And when that system breaks down, glucose just sits in your blood, accumulating and causing damage to your blood vessels, your nerves, your kidneys, your eyes, and your heart. And this is why blood sugar management is so critically important, because every spike, every surge, every poorly managed meal is quietly causing damage at the cellular level that you may not feel today, but that you will absolutely feel in the years ahead. Now, here's where milk becomes so interesting and so important. Milk contains three major nutritional components that all affect blood sugar differently, and those three things are carbohydrates in the form of a natural sugar called lactose, protein, and fat. And the specific balance of these three components in each type of milk determines whether that milk is going to help control your blood sugar or make it worse. And this is exactly why 2 cartons of milk sitting side by side on the shelf at your local Walmart can have completely opposite effects on your glucose levels, even though they both look like milk and both pour like milk and both taste somewhat like milk. The longer you go making the wrong choice here, the harder it becomes to get your A1C under control. And I want you to really hear that, because every single day matters when you're managing diabetes. And the good news is that once you know what to look for, the right choice becomes incredibly simple. Let me tell you about one of my patients, because her story is so typical of what I see, and it always moves me when I think about it. Her name was Dorothy, and she was a 74-year-old retired nurse from Atlanta, Georgia. And when she first came to see me, her A1C was sitting at 8.6, which is quite high, and she was genuinely doing her best, and she was taking her medication every day, and she had cut out sweets, and she was walking every morning in her neighborhood, even during the hot Georgia summers, and yet her numbers just would not budge. And when I sat down with her and really went through her daily routine in detail, one of the First things I noticed was her breakfast, and every single morning Dorothy was pouring what she genuinely believed was a healthy choice of milk into her cereal and her coffee, and she had no idea that this one seemingly innocent habit was creating a blood sugar spike before 8 in the morning that was setting a difficult metabolic tone for her entire day. And within just 2.5 months of making the switch I'm going to tell you about today, her A1C came down to 7.2 and her fasting glucose numbers improved dramatically, and she told me she hadn't felt that energetic in years. And that is exactly the kind of transformation that is possible when you have the right information. So let's get into the milks themselves, and I want to start with the single most important thing you need to understand before we go any further, and that is the concept of glycemic impact, because this is the lens through which every diabetic person should be evaluating every single food and drink choice they make throughout the day. The glycemic impact of a food refers to how quickly and how significantly it raises your blood sugar after you consume it, and foods with a high glycemic impact cause rapid dramatic spikes, while foods with a low glycemic impact produce slow, gentle rises that your body can manage much more effectively without overwhelming your already stressed insulin response system. And when it comes to milk, the differences in glycemic impact between different types are genuinely striking. Regular whole cow's milk, for example, contains approximately 12 grams of carbohydrates per cup, almost entirely from lactose. And while it has a moderate glycemic index on its own, the problem is that most of us are not drinking just one cup of milk in isolation, and we're pouring it on cereal, which has its own carbohydrates, and we're adding it to coffee with maybe a little sweetener, and we're using it in cooking. And when you add all of that up across a morning, the carbohydrate load from milk alone can be significant, and for a diabetic senior who is carefully counting every gram, that really matters. Skim milk is even more problematic than whole milk for diabetics despite having fewer calories, and this surprises almost everyone I tell it to, because we've been conditioned by decades of American dietary advice to think that skim milk is the healthier choice. But when you remove the fat from milk, you remove the one thing that was slowing down the digestion of the lactose and helping to moderate the blood sugar response. And what you're left with is essentially sugar water that hits your bloodstream faster than the full fat version. And many of my patients who switched to skim milk thinking they were making a healthier choice for their diabetes actually saw their post-meal blood sugar numbers go up. And this is one of those situations where the conventional wisdom is genuinely backward. Now I want to get into the milks that actually help, and I'm going to give you three powerful options, starting with what I consider the absolute best choice for blood sugar control, and working through each one with the science behind it and practical ways to incorporate it into your daily American life. The first and most powerful milk for diabetic blood sugar control is unsweetened almond milk, and the reason it sits at the top of my list comes down to one extraordinary number, and that number is this. While regular cow's milk contains 12 grams of carbohydrates per cup, unsweetened almond milk contains less than 2 grams per cup. And when you think about how many times milk appears in your day, from your morning coffee to your oatmeal to your evening warm drink, that difference of 10 grams of carbohydrates per serving multiplied across the day adds up to a dramatic reduction in your overall carbohydrate load. And for a diabetic, that reduction can directly translate into lower fasting glucose, better post-meal readings, and meaningful improvement in your A1C over time. But the benefits of unsweetened almond milk go far beyond just the carbohydrate count, and this is where it gets really exciting from a medical perspective. Almonds are one of the richest food sources of magnesium, and magnesium is a mineral that plays an absolutely critical role in insulin sensitivity. And according to research published in leading diabetes journals, people with type 2 diabetes are disproportionately deficient in magnesium compared to the general population, and this deficiency directly worsens insulin resistance, creating a vicious cycle where poor blood sugar control depletes magnesium, which then makes blood sugar control even harder. And by drinking unsweetened almond milk regularly, you're providing your body with a gentle, consistent source of this essential mineral that can help break that cycle. Not only that, but almond milk contains healthy monounsaturated fats, which are the same type of fats celebrated in the Mediterranean diet, and these fats have been shown in multiple studies to improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation throughout The body, and for American seniors, managing diabetes inflammation is a silent enemy because chronic low grade inflammation makes insulin resistance dramatically worse, and every anti inflammatory food choice you make is a step in the right direction. What's more, the vitamin E in almond milk acts as a powerful antioxidant, protecting your cells from the oxidative damage that high blood sugar causes over time. And this matters enormously because one of the ways diabetes does long term damage is through this oxidative stress pathway, and getting regular antioxidant support from your diet is one of the most practical defenses you have. Now, here is the single most important thing I need to tell you about almond milk, and I need you to really hear this because it's where so many well meaning people go completely wrong. There are two versions of almond milk on the shelf at every grocery store in America, and they are side by side, and they often look nearly identical. And one of them is a powerful tool for blood sugar management, and the other one is a blood sugar disaster in disguise. And the difference is three words on the label, and those three words are no added sugar or unsweetened. And the sweetened and flavored versions of almond milk can contain anywhere from 15 to 25 grams of sugar per serving, which is more than some candy bars. And if you have been buying vanilla almond milk or original almond milk without checking the label, please go to your refrigerator after this video and check, because you may have been unknowingly spiking your blood sugar every single morning with something you thought was helping you. Always choose unsweetened, always check the nutrition label, and look for less than 2 grams of total carbohydrates per serving. And once you find the right product, you can get it at Walmart, Kroger, Target, Whole Foods, or virtually any grocery store in America, and it's genuinely affordable. Now, let me give you something practical, because I always believe that information without action is just noise. And so I want to walk you through what I call Dr. Brooks' morning blood sugar stabilizing protocol. And this is something you can start doing tomorrow morning with ingredients from any American grocery store. You'll start with 1 cup of unsweetened almond milk as your base. To that, you'll add half a cup of plain old-fashioned rolled oats, not the instant flavored packets, because those are loaded with added sugars and processed quickly in your body, causing rapid glucose spikes. But the plain rolled oats that have been a staple in American kitchens for over a century, and that release their energy slowly and steadily. Next, you'll stir in a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and this is not just for flavor. Cinnamon contains bioactive compounds called cinnamaldehyde and polyphenol that have been shown in multiple clinical studies to improve insulin sensitivity and lower fasting blood sugar levels by mimicking some of the actions of insulin in your cells. And it is one of the most well-researched natural blood sugar tools available, and it costs almost nothing at any grocery store. Then add a small handful of walnuts, because walnuts are rich in omega-3 fatty acids and plant-based protein that slow the digestion of everything else in your meal and significantly blunt the post-meal blood sugar response. And doctors have been recommending walnuts for heart and metabolic health for decades because the evidence behind them is so strong. Finally, top it with a small handful of fresh or frozen blueberries, which you can find at any Walmart or Kroger year-round. And blueberries contain compounds called anthocyanins that research has demonstrated can improve insulin sensitivity and reduce fasting blood sugar levels over time, and they're one of the most antioxidant-rich foods on the planet. This entire breakfast costs just a few dollars and takes about 5 minutes to prepare, and it gives your body a slow, steady stream of energy that keeps your blood sugar stable through the entire morning. And I have had patient after patient tell me that switching to this simple breakfast made a noticeable difference in their mid-morning blood sugar readings within just 2 to 3 weeks of consistent use, and that's the kind of practical result that matters in real daily life. Now, let's move on to the second powerful milk for diabetic blood sugar control, and this one has a specific advantage that makes it uniquely valuable for seniors, and that advantage is protein content, and the milk I'm talking about is unsweetened soy milk. Soy milk is the only plant-based milk that comes close to matching the protein content of cow's milk, providing about 7 to 8 grams of complete protein per cup, and protein is critically important for blood sugar management for a reason that is backed by decades of clinical research, and that reason is this: protein dramatically slows the digestion and absorption of carbohydrates, which means when you consume protein alongside carbohydrates, the glucose from those carbohydrates enters your bloodstream much more gradually, producing a smaller, gentler blood sugar response instead of the sharp spike you get when you eat carbohydrates alone. And for a diabetic senior, this protein mediated blood sugar dampening effect is genuinely powerful and it works every single time you eat. Research indicates that seniors with type 2 diabetes who consistently consume adequate protein with their meals show measurably better post meal blood sugar control and also better preservation of muscle mass, which is critically important as we age because muscle tissue is actually one of the primary sites where glucose gets absorbed from the bloodstream, and maintaining muscle helps your body manage blood sugar more effectively without needing as much insulin to do the job. Soy also contains natural plant compounds called isoflavones, and there is growing clinical evidence that these compounds may improve insulin sensitivity directly at the cellular level. And while the research is still developing, the early findings are genuinely promising, and several studies have shown meaningful reductions in fasting blood sugar and improvements in insulin response in people who regularly consume soy products. Let me tell you about another patient of mine named Robert, a 68-year-old retired firefighter from outside of Chicago, and when I first suggested he switch to unsweetened soy milk, he looked at me like I had suggested he give up his beloved Cubs, and he said, "Dr. Brooks, I grew up on a farm in Illinois, drinking real milk every morning," and he was deeply skeptical, and I completely understood, because so many of the men of his generation associate strength and health with traditional cow's milk, and the idea of plant-based alternatives felt foreign and unnecessary to him. But Robert was also a practical man, and when I showed him the data and explained the protein benefit and told him his blood sugar numbers gave us no room for sentimentality, he agreed to try it for 60 days, and at his follow-up appointment 2 months later, he came in grinning and told me his morning glucose readings had dropped by nearly 20 points on average, and he said it tasted a lot better than he expected, especially in his coffee, and he has never looked back. And I love telling that story because it reminds me that the biggest barrier to better health is often just unfamiliarity, and sometimes all it takes is 60 days of honest trying. Now, before I get to the third and most powerful milk on my list, I want to make sure you understand something important about the overall strategy here, because knowing which milk to drink is just one piece of the puzzle, and I want to give you the full picture. When you're managing diabetes, the goal is not just to choose low-sugar foods in isolation, but to build meals and daily habits that work together to keep your blood sugar stable throughout the entire day, and the way your body responds to any individual food is always influenced by what else you ate at the same time, and how much you moved that day, and how well you slept the night before, and how much stress you're carrying. And understanding that complexity helps you see why a single switch like changing your milk can make a noticeable difference, but it works best as part of a broader pattern of supportive choices. This is also a good moment to remind you that if you want access to more detailed guides like this, including in-depth home remedy protocols and exclusive diabetes management content, you can become a member of our channel, and I share much more detailed information there specifically for our members who are serious about taking control of their health. Now, let's talk about the third milk on my list, and in many ways, this is the most surprising one because it's not one that most people think about when they're shopping for milk alternatives. But the research behind it is genuinely impressive, and that milk is unsweetened. Flaxseed milk, and I want to tell you why this one deserves a place in your diabetes management toolkit. Flaxseed milk is made from ground flax seeds and water, and it is remarkably low in carbohydrates, with most commercial versions containing just 1 gram of carbohydrates per cup, which means it has virtually zero glycemic impact. And for someone who is trying to keep their blood sugar as stable as possible throughout the day, this negligible carbohydrate content is a significant advantage, especially if you're someone who drinks several servings of milk daily or uses it extensively in cooking and baking. But the really remarkable thing about flaxseed milk is what it contains beyond the nutritional basics, and that is lignans and omega-3 fatty acids and soluble fiber. And these three components working together create what I would describe as a triple anti-diabetic effect that goes far beyond simple carbohydrate avoidance. Lignans are plant compounds that have been shown in clinical research to improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation at the cellular level, and omega Three fatty acids are among the most powerful anti inflammatory nutrients we know of, and chronic inflammation, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the primary drivers of worsening insulin resistance, and soluble fiber slows digestion and helps moderate blood sugar responses after meals in a way that is well documented in the medical literature. From a medical perspective, flaxseed milk is genuinely exciting for diabetic patients because it addresses multiple mechanisms of blood sugar dysregulation simultaneously, and not just the carbohydrate load, and I have started recommending it to my patients who are looking for the most comprehensive nutritional support for their diabetes management, and the feedback has been consistently positive. Now, I also want to talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention in the conversation about milk and diabetes, and that is the role of gut health in blood sugar regulation, because this connection is one of the most important and most overlooked aspects of diabetes management, and it changes how we should think about certain milk choices.